Thank you very much, Mr. Posey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious if you would explore a little bit more, Mr. Rose, the threat you see by the Chinese.
Sir, one of the things that I would recommend is the Director of National Intelligence Annual Threat Assessment. The bottom line is this: China is developing a full spectrum of anti-satellite capabilities designed to negate America's advantage in outer space. End stop.
Yeah, we get that. We know. I remember in the 2012 presidential debates, Newt Gingrich said we need to establish a presence on the moon. He didn't say the Russians are doing it and the Chinese are committing to do it. He just said we need to do it without going further. Whereupon Centaurum jumped up and said, you're just pandering to the I-4 corridor. Romney said, well, that's the stupidest thing I ever heard. I'd fire anybody on my staff that suggested that. Of course, Michael Griffin, former national administrator, was his advisor, thought it was eminently important we go back. Finally got to Ron Paul, and Ron Paul said, much to his credit, it's important to our national defense. Yep. Then he joked we need to send all politicians to the moon and end the discussion about space in the presidential primary. Very next day, what happened? Dr. Stoffen knows, and I'm sure Dr. Whitson knows what happened the very next day. They had to move the ISS. Why'd they have to move it? Space debris. Where'd it come from?
China.
Chinese satellite, 8,000 pounds. They took target practice on it. A week later, they had to move the ISS again. Why'd they have to move it this time? More space debris. Chinese again? No, Russian space debris. Well, why would the Chinese and the Russians shoot their own dog? Just to prove to themselves and the rest of the world that they were capable of doing that. If they can take their own satellites out, they can take our satellites out. So the question that begs for an answer is, what are we doing about it? And how can we make sure that it gets addressed? I think it's an important matter of national security.
Yeah. Sir, I think we need a comprehensive response. It needs to include norms of behavior so we prevent activities like China's ASAT test. It needs to include resilient U.S. systems that can operate in outer space. We need to be able to respond if there is an attack on U.S. space assets. Yeah. But at the same time, sir, I just add, we also need to find a way to cooperate on common interests with both Russia and China.
Yeah. Yeah. Any of the three of you read that book, 1 Second After, William Forsten's New York Times bestseller?
No.
I highly recommend it. It's riveting. It's very informative. It's based upon apparently a confidential intelligence report that members of Congress get, and it's staggering what happens. I mean, we've got 30-some satellites that make our credit card use possible, our cell phones, our laptops, give us our weather reports. You take a half dozen of those things out of operation, and we're in the Stone Age, and the consequences are lethal. They're not unfortunate. They're not uncomfortable. They're lethal for masses of people. So I think it's very, very important that we address this, and I thank the chair for bringing us up today and